I think all of us were just sort of struck by how much that family and Alex went through. It was unbelievable. The 17 surgeries we had heard, and it had been reported, and we've even seen images of the leg over the last few months. In the brace, and just you would sneak a peek and try to look at things. I don't think any of us thought it was as carved up as it was by the end of it. And I know for me personally, I said to the boys, I never knew you could get a flesh-eating bacteria out at FedEx Field. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I remember when you guys reported what you did way back when, which was, I want to say like about 2 weeks or so after the initial. I mean, look, I know you guys got a lot of, some heat for that and whatever. I mean, I don't remember exactly how you reported it, but I think it all, turned out to be exactly what, you all were saying and hearing. So, I mean, kudos to you guys. So we'll start with that, number one. Number two, even with that knowledge, even with what I heard behind the scenes, which was a lot of, potential amputation talk, and, I mean, I heard all sorts of different things, but you never know exactly what to believe. And you want to be very, 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 very careful when discussing somebody or just, discussing somebody's medical situation. I even with all that knowledge, I didn't realize it was as bad as it turned out to be. And you mentioned the flesh-eating wound, and Stefania Bell. I talked to her last Thursday morning, and this was obviously before the documentary. And you just mentioned like the dirty wound and all that. She told me they pulled like a fragment of his athletic sock that he wears from over his foot and all the way up to just below his knee out of the wound. So that had dirt on it from being sacked earlier in the game and maybe even being sacked on that particular play. And when they pulled that portion of the sock out, they believe, and I'm not a doctor here, but that certainly contributed, in addition to just the normal open wound and the fracture and everything with that. They believe that's what eventually caused the infection. I guess it doesn't take very much. I mean, I don't know about you all, but back in 2005, I cracked my right shin, ironically enough, same area, on a door frame. I slipped on ice in Chicago where I was living. And I never had a cut. I never had a wound, but it got infected through like what they call microbacteria and through microinfection. And my legs swole up, and I almost had like a staph infection. They said if I would have waited, I waited like 3 days to go to the hospital, and until I couldn't take it anymore. They said if I would have waited like another day or two, I might have been facing amputation. That is that's not a compound fracture. That's not even an open wound like Alex had. I'm not trying to draw the parallel. I'm just saying that's how crazy it can be when it comes to that area of the body and with these infections and all that. So it was just fascinating and awful to learn about all at the same time.
It sounds almost similar to like what happened to Jason Taylor when he was here with I think it was when he was here with the Skins with the compartment syndrome. Right, also with his leg.
Yeah.
Where if he hadn't gone to the hospital, they said
I wonder how bad that looked.
Could have lost his leg and or died.
Yeah. I mean, you do not want to mess around. Like, obviously people understand that, if you're having chest pains or whatever, you don't want to mess around with that. You've got to go and you got to call 911 or you got to get yourself, to the ER or whatever. And in the coronavirus era that we're living in now, if you're not, all sorts of things. People understand that. But I don't know if people, clearly with Alex, they knew they had to do surgery right away. And even throughout the documentary, you find out that they didn't realize that there was the infection until he started spiking the fever a couple of days out. As a matter of fact, they almost sent him home, and that's how crazy this can be. If you think about, he did the surgery, he seemed to be fine the next morning, that Monday morning, which is just crazy in and of itself. And then they were going to cut him loose on Tuesday, I think it was. And then all of a sudden he starts spiking this fever, and it's like 102 plus or whatever it was. And that's when they realize, oh, wait, we might have a potential problem here.
And then how about the Smith family just allowing the cameras to follow them throughout this entire saga? I mean, a year and a half of it.
Yeah. pretty incredible access, and you know, when I was talking to Stefania Bell, you know, about this on Thursday before the documentary came out, she was detailing some of what, you know, like obviously what you saw and how the show opened up on Friday night, which was the trip to San Antonio, and the fact that they made 2 trips to San Antonio, because why? It's not a normal football injury. It's a military blast injury.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
just try and put that into comprehension. And then just, you know, because I tend to talk too long about this, I don't know if you guys were still with it at the end there. To see that dude not only playing with his kids, but to see him full sprinting straight on was incredible, because I've seen him on the football field. I've seen him throwing the rock around. I've seen him walking. I've seen him kind of lightly jogging at practice. I haven't seen that. To see him do that a year and 15 months or whatever it was, whenever that particular scene was shot, was mind-boggling, incredible. Because I'm slow, but he looked like he was going pretty fast, straight line speed.
So here, let's talk about this for a second, because, you know, just at face value, and when you see it, I remember when it was, related to us, you know, a year and a half ago, whenever it happened, and a doctor said, I didn't say it to me directly, but I heard it through the third person, that it was like ridiculous to even ponder the idea of playing again after what he had been through. And when you see the pictures, now you understand. But let's talk this out. So, like, broken bones happen. They put rods in or whatever they do, and guys have come back from broken legs. It just appears. If they get, they obviously, we had a guy call in, said they did the same thing with his wife's foot. They put these slabs of muscle on around him from different parts of his body, and then, you know, it's his speculation that they'll shave it down and make it look a little normal or whatever. Let's try to talk about the plausibility of him potentially coming back. If the bone has healed correctly and they have enough flesh and muscle around it to protect it, and, you know, he can move. I mean, is this a possibility that we can't even fathom?
I think he's going to try. I don't know what you know, there's a difference between being medically cleared and being able to do what we saw at the very end, and through all the rehab and, again, just the straight line speed or the straight line running that he did at the very end, and being able to play football, right? Shanahan used to tell Grant and I and the reporters all the time, there's a difference between cardiovascular shape and football shape.
Right.
Now, in this particular case, nobody worries that Alex Smith is going to be in bad cardiovascular shape, but is he going to be able to be in football shape? That I don't know. I mean, clearly he can throw. Clearly he can run. Clearly he has the desire to play again. And I would just say this, and you guys talked to Ron last week. I talked to Ron the week before, just right before the draft, and, you know, on and off the record. And, you know, I mean, the sense that you get, at least, is they are not closing the door by any means. And I don't think that's fake. I don't know if it's going to be reality, but I don't think it's fake. And until they say that this dude can't play and cannot practice and is potentially hurting himself, or just doesn't have it anymore for whatever reason, because, I don't know, he can't roll on a bootleg out of the pocket, I'm not going to say no. Whereas before this documentary, I was probably about 99%, 99.5% no. Now I'm like, well, you know what? I still don't believe he'll play, but I'm a lot less than 99%. I can just be honest